from the man cave Kinnick Under the Kitchen, authentic, original player art prints are being drawn up for Hawkeye fans everywhere. From Under the Kitchen's Murray Legacy print, which features former Hawkeye Kenyon Murray, current Hawkeye Chris Murray, and current Sacramento King Keegan Murray, to football players Lucas Van Ness, Torrey Taylor, and Cooper DeJean, to wrestlers Tony Cassiope, Alex Marinelli, and Real Woods. Oh, and only one of the greatest athletes to ever compete at Iowa, Spencer Lee. There are so many options available, and they make great gifts. Visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook or at Under the Kitchen's new website. It's underthekitchen.square.site. That's underthekitchen.square.site. Check out Under the Kitchen today and get your authentic, original Hawkeye print. Guess we've got to update that video because Chris Murray no longer an Iowa Hawkeye, Portland Trailblazer now. So we'll have to get with Randy and update that ad. Do want to let everybody know, appreciate Under the Kitchen sponsoring the show this evening. If you have not been made aware, Randy will be at Fry Fest this week on Friday. So be sure to check out the booth, the Under the Kitchen booth. They've been with us. He's been with us for coming up on well over a year now. So be sure to support our sponsors, including Randy. And speaking of support, somebody that Iowa fans should want to support, Mr. Brad Heinrichs, part of the Iowa Swarm, the Swarm Collective, I should say. Brad, how you doing, sir?
Doing great. Good to see you.
Week 1. Can you believe we're back? Is this feel?
I'm so excited. Oh, I'm so fired up.
Do you get the, like I said this to Mark Rogers the other day in our weekly Tuesday show, like to me, whenever I get to this point, week 1, it feels like the off season takes forever to get here. And then once you get here, it feels like it's not really here. Do you still get that way, or am I just like in a fantasy land?
Yeah. I think there's some of that. I can tell you that I've never been more invested than I am right now. I've been a Hawkeye fan since the '90s when I went to school there, and I haven't missed many games since then. But now I'm like really invested. I think we're going to be pretty good. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
So what this time of the year, Brad, I mean, I'm just curious from your perspective, someone who's so involved with the NIL world and recruiting and whatnot. And obviously you're not just involved with the football side of things, but also men's basketball, women's basketball, and recruiting never stops regardless of sport. Is this a slower time of year for the collective? And I mean, obviously I know there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just helping on the recruiting side of things, but how would you quantify besides your everyday job?
It's actually my real life job. It's actually pretty busy because we're actively fundraising to try to figure out how much money we can allocate to these kids, or as far as like what kind of opportunities we can give these kids in the collective. We're planning all of our tailgates. We're planning all of these events for these kids to be able to make money this fall. If there's a slow time, it's probably in the summer. The kids aren't on campus. They're I say they're not on campus. School is not in. So we've been fundraising, we've been planning, and it's a pretty busy. This is actually a pretty busy time, and just trying to budget, try to figure out, okay, how are we gonna make this go in year 2? How much bigger are we going to be? How much more can we promise? What kinds of incentives can we give? What sorts of corporate partnerships can we strike deals with to try to raise more money for these kids and the local charities? So we're pretty busy right now.
And you, of course, are an Iowa alum, and you love your Hawks. I know you told me before we jumped on here, you're as pumped as you've ever been, not only because you're invested, but because I know from our past conversations, you have you have high hopes for this team specifically. I know you have a personal relationship with QB1, Cade McNamara. I'm not asking you to divulge any more than what Kirk and Cade were willing to divulge on Tuesday, but given your last conversations with Cade, you anticipate he'll be out there Saturday?
Yeah, I would bet so. He's one heck of a competitor. He's a leader. He wants to set the tone. In practice yesterday, I think he felt fairly good. I don't know about today. No idea. But I think everything's pointing towards him playing on Saturday. Obviously, if the trainers, doctors say we don't think it's a good idea, my hunch is that Kirk would say, if the doctors don't should say you shouldn't play, you probably shouldn't play, kid. But I can tell you that if it's up to Cade, I mean, he seems like such a competitor that I just would be very surprised if he held himself out. We'll see, but I that just doesn't strike me. Everything I know about the kid, he's just dying to get out there. I would expect to see him now. If we do really well, could I see him get the early hook and turn it over just on a precautionary basis? I could see that. If we've got the game in hand, I certainly see Deacon coming in and taking over at halftime or whenever the game is firmly in hand. But if he's not, I'll tell you this: if he's not starting, I'll be more surprised than I will be if he is starting.
And I said it during a little preview that I cut here this week for the channel, Brad. They need to get him out. I mean, he should not be playing 4 full quarters. With all due respect to Utah State, that's a good head coach and Blake Anderson, good program. I know they were actually finished pretty high in their conference last year, despite the 6-7 overall record. But this is a Utah State team that Iowa should be able to build at least a lead by the fourth quarter to where they're comfortable bringing in Deacon or Joe. Because again, I'm no advocate for holding Cade out. I've heard some people speculate, hold him out before week 2. He's here to play. He got 12 games. That's knowing, like you said, him as a competitor. He wants to play. I'm all for him playing as long as he's not at grave risk of re-injuring that quad. I guess my big thing is just try to get him out when you can. And hey, get guys like Deacon Hill experience. Deacon's never played in a game. So you got to get him experience at some point because we don't know what the road holds for Cade McNamara and this team. As of right now, it looks like Deacon is QB2. I am curious before I forget because as most people know on this show, a lot of what we do is unscripted. So before I forget this, Brad, let me ask you this question. So
Sure.
I'll get your take on the betting situation, first of all. But in addition to that, I have a question for you, and you answer it how you can. How does the situation with Noah Shannon being suspended for the year, assuming that suspension is upheld, how does that, if it does, affect at all any NIL deals that Noah was a part of for this season, or does it affect those NIL deals?
Great question. Not one that I was very insightful. Not one I was expecting. The contract that we have the student athletes sign, and just these student athletes have to sign every contract, and the contract has some language in it. I don't have it in front of me, but there's language in there that suggests that you have to be in good standing in order to be able to participate in the NIL activities. And being suspended by the NCAA for, I guess it's 12 games. It seems as if at least that's the update I think we all have. I don't know if it's 12 games or the season. I don't know if that's been defined. Is it the season? Okay. I didn't know if that had been defined, whether it was 12 or whether it was the whole season or what, but hopefully 12 does not equal the season. But I think the answer is that I don't foresee him participating in any NIL activities at this point. Now, if they appeal, which I would bet that they will, that's up to them. But if they, I don't know what there is to lose in appealing, but if they appeal and the suspension is cut short, then once that suspension is over, then he can participate. But I would not expect him to be participating, or anybody else that might be suspended, to participate in any NIL activities while they're suspended. If that makes any sense.
It does. I just want to make sure I'm clear on the logistics of this. Explain to, and we've had so many conversations about NIL and the swarm and how everything operates. And again, you answer what you can here, I guess, Brad. But
Yeah.
a student, let's just go theoretical, and I'm not saying this is exactly what happened with Noah, but let's just theoretically look at a situation. You've got a guy who has got some opportunities in front of him. He's deciding whether he wants to forego his final year of eligibility for the NFL draft to pursue other opportunities, or can come back. And part of the incentive now for a lot of these athletes is the potential to make money via NIL, which was not there 5-10 years ago, at least not above board. So I guess my question is, when a deal is struck or it is presented to an athlete that, hey, if you come back, this is at your disposal, which I think based on our conversation, that's kind of the gist of how this thing operates. When is the money due the player? Is it prior to services rendered or after?
You can't. The way the NIL works is that you can't pay to play, and so the way our NIL attorneys convey that, or whatever you want to call it, translate that to us in our feeble minds, is that they have to do something in order to get paid, and that something is not just playing football,
Right.
Or basketball. So they'll have to perform services and then get paid. Not, hey, you showed up to campus, so I'm going to pay you. That doesn't work. So, and so kind of extrapolating on your original question, we set up events that these players can participate in, and they can sign up. Well, if we make it so if they're not in good standing, they're not able to sign up. Can't sign up, can't show up, can't do the service, can't get paid. So you kind of see how that progression works. So
allow me to basically explain this to everybody who's not keeping up, and I understand that some people view NIL as pay for play, which it is not, although there are facets of it that has turned into such across the country. We understand that. But to make this clear, what Brad is telling us is that based on the indicators here, Noah Shannon's obligations that he was set to fulfill to ensure these NIL funds, he is not able to fulfill those as long as he's suspended. So he's basically the equivalent of an employee being suspended without pay. So I do want to make that clear. We're not just talking about a guy who's losing out on his senior year to impress, draft scouts, and, I don't want to say a year down the drain, because I'm sure from a character standpoint, this will make him better. But this is a bigger loss for someone now than it would have been 5 years ago if a guy got suspended for the season for betting.
Yeah, but to be clear, he's not losing his scholarship. It's not. You say suspended without pay. I mean, he's still getting his scholarship. He's just not able to make through our organization. He's not able to make, additional NIL money. Now, could another NIL deal come about somehow or another outside of our organization that he might be eligible for? That's possible. But, I think one of our stipulations, in order to participate is that you have to be in good standing. So that's part of their agreement that they sign whenever they sign up to be part of. So when they voluntarily sign up to be part of this one.
I'm just curious, Brad, do you think it would, and we're just speculating now, but
sure,
Noah Shannon's appeal gets denied and he knows his career at Iowa is done. Do you think it would be smart or dumb on his part to go get an NIL deal with a gambling site? I've had this for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it would be in it for the gambling site, to be honest.
Sure.
Because there's nothing that really good came out of that, the gambling, and and my opinion of the whole thing is that it's ridiculous. I mean, there are guys that have broken serious laws that have gotten 2 or 3 game suspensions.
Right.
It's not illegal to place a small bet on not even on his own sport. It's on a different sport, and I mean, it's almost part of our culture now. I don't see, personally, obviously betting on your own team against your own team, any of those things, I think that's something you can't do. That's an absolute no-no. And in fairness, they knew the rules. These rules were not foreign to these kids. But at the same time, in the pantheon of breaking rules, to if you decide you want to bet on the Lakers in the second half in a game, what's the big deal?
I
Granted,
just
it is
don't quite
against the rules.
understand. I don't quite understand why the standard is different for a college athlete. I think that's what we all agree on.
Right, and what also annoys me is that somebody somewhere had it in for the state of Iowa, because I think that if the same sweep was done nationwide, we would probably look pretty good. I think that other kids in other programs do the same stuff that our kids have done. Because like I said, I think it's part of the culture. So I think it's really disappointing for Noah. He's a good player. He's a good kid. Nothing but good things to say about him. I hope that Iowa appeals. I hope that they get his suspension reduced, and that he can join the team and play this fall. He's a big asset, on and off the field. So this one really struck me as being really disappointing.
This is the last thing I'll say on this, and we can get off it. I'm kind of just honing in on this subject because it does kind of intrigue and fascinate me, Brad, in a good way. You said in good standing. So the language of these deals, these contracts that a player has to sign with your collective, which then partners with these other businesses and these organizations for this work and these payments. I'm just curious, in good standing according to whom? Because if you ask Kirk Ferentz, he would tell you that Noah Shannon is in good standing with the team. He's not in good standing with the NCAA.
Yeah, I think there's some specific language. Like I said, I wasn't. You didn't prepare me for this question.
I'm sorry.
I don't have all the language.
Brad, you're an actuary.
I don't have all the language in front of me. And honestly, this is something that we'll probably take to our attorneys and see what can be done, if anything. But yeah, I mean, there's some specific language in the agreements that, how legalese is, right? They're gonna say in good standing and then define what that is, at least to some level. And so anyway, I mean, if there's a chance that we can do something for him, we will. He's a great kid, but in general, my understanding, without having, this isn't something that we have sent to the attorneys yet to a rule on, but my understanding and my general understanding of our agreements is that if you're not in good standing means you're not capable of being able to play, and not by injury. So
okay,
that would kind of qualify.
You're an actuary, Brad. That's why I felt like
I know. Yeah, you can get as detailed as you want. I'm used to being in the weeds. It's fine.
All right. No, that's good stuff. I apologize for kind of sideslipping
the question. No, good.
It did come to mind. So this is part of why we're doing this this evening, and I'm glad you just took a sip of your beer. I believe that's Swarm beer, right? So the question here from Tyler, he wants to know if there's any way to get beer or vodka in Florida. Well, you're in Florida and you have beer, so there is a way.
I do. There's a way. There's a way.
Tyler how to do this.
Well, you take it with you from Iowa. That's what you do. One way or the other. That's how you do it. There currently is no avenue to get to buy Swarm beer at a local Publix or whatever gas station down here. Unfortunately, that is something that's being looked into. We've talked about trying to get it at game watches across the country, that sort of thing. It's not as easy as I thought it might be. I mean, I'm like, hey, just ship it to them. Well, distributors have to get involved, and then there's contracts and negotiations, and apparently that it's a lot more difficult than I ever thought. And I've also learned that you can't just ship it through the mail. That's against the law, apparently. So it's an education for me. But yeah, I took some. I was up there a week ago or so and brought me a few 12 packs back. So I'm loaded for bear this fall.
James wants to know about Southern Iowa. I'm assuming it's
all. Oh yeah, everywhere in Iowa should have it. If it's not there, It should be, and if it's not where you normally would buy beer, talk to them, because the distributors, both big distributors in Iowa, Dahl and 7G, have it in spades. And it's just, if the restaurant doesn't ask for it or want it, then it's not going to be there, or the convenience store. So you just need to ask for it, and then it is available.
And HD 90 Dog says, how are the numbers looking for vodka and for the beer? And then where are things with Swarm? Where are things for Swarm vodka? And I guess the number is going into Kinnick on Saturday.
Yeah. So with Kinnick, I think I've already said. From what I understand, there's just shy of 400 cases that Aramark has ordered. So I think, by the middle of the first quarter, you'll be able to get the Swarm beer. They're going to be at most of the different concessions around. So I'm hopeful that we drink them dry of Swarm Golden Ale early and often, and Aramark continues to up their orders, and it becomes, my dream, the dream state for me is that for people who consume alcohol, they think when they go to Kinnick, it's almost like a religious experience for them. You go to Kinnick, you watch the Hawks, and you drink a Swarm beer. I'm hopeful that becomes sort of a rite of passage as part of the Kinnick experience, but we'll see.
I felt special drinking a Swarm beer at the Iowa State Fair. That felt like a cultural experience.
Yeah, good.
I will give the fair, however the logistics work behind that. I think we were over at the Bud tent, and there was a banner. Now I had to go to like 3 different stands because people kept pointing, we don't have it over here, but we have it over there. And I finally found it. And
what did you think?
Thought it was good. I'm not a beer guy. I've said this before. I'm not a beer guy, but I liked it. It's an easy drink.
Yeah, that was the idea. The idea was to try to make it an easy kind of beer to drink, which is sometimes difficult when you're talking about craft beer. Like, craft beer sometimes it's kind of, it'll take your breath away to some extent for a lot of people. It's not as light and smooth as some of the big name brand beers. So, but I think they did a really good job, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what we've done there, and the chances that we end up making $1 million a year on beer sales is a possibility, which would be really cool.
All right, we've had a caller on the phone line who jumped on like right when we started, so let's go to our phone line. Thank you for calling Hawkeye Hangout. Here, who's on the line?
Hey, Corey. It's Kyle from Cedar Rapids.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Brad. How you doing?
Doing great, Kyle. How about yourself?
I'm good. Saturday can't come fast enough.
Amen.
I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. It's a whole new season and new team, and hopefully we have a good year.
Yes, sir.
There you go. We agree with that.
I'll say this, Kyle. I would hate to hear what you sound like when you're not excited.
Kyle, curb your enthusiasm, Kyle.
I would not be excited if the first game ended up like another 7 to free score, and I would be still not be excited about that one.
So, Kyle, do you have a prediction? I haven't given my prediction yet on the channel. Do you have a prediction for Saturday, Kyle?
My prediction is I just want Hawkeye touchdowns and no 7 to free scores.
Okay.
I think I'll promise you that. How about that? We're going to score some points on Saturday.
Appreciate that promise.
I do want touchdowns, Don't want to wait to have one of those games, but I'm just glad we got better players in portal, and hopefully they show up on Saturday. O-line needs to show out. Receivers need to get separation. I know you're all hopefully Cade will expect to play. I kind of expect him to play, but I'm kind of ready if he can't go, or I'm still be ready for Deacon if he goes.
I'm sure that's
yeah. One thing I'll say about the quarterback. I mean, Obviously Cade's great. I mean, he's proven he's awesome. But in talking to coaches, they would tell you that our quarterback room is about as good as it's been in a really long time. It's not, Cade or bust, so to speak. Obviously Cade is a champion and proven winner. And, if he's not in there, well, there's a drop off. However, I think we can win with Deacon Hill. I think we can win with Joe Lavis if we have to. The hope is that, we don't have to, but it's not a Cade or bust situation on Saturday. And as we move through the year, if he was to get injured, I still take my chances with one of the other guys. I think that they've both really improved this fall and can hold their own when they get in there. Deacon Hill, by the way, has a huge arm. I mean, his arm is huge. He's got a stronger arm than Cade does.
I will say this. I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical than Brad. I don't want to know what life after Cade is like in 2023 because I hope you're right, Brad, that this room has taken this big jump. But I would have to see that to buy into that notion.
Let's hope that we're not talking about this mid-season.
Exactly.
Corey. Let's hope that you're just gonna have to take my word for it, and we never know. I'm hoping that we never know.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Kyle?
I know the quarterback rooms look better. I mean, I was at Kids Day a few weeks ago, and they were taking chances downfield. Some of them might be picked, but I like those chances what they can throw down the field instead of check downs or playing it safe. But I really like taking chances with them, and I kind of feel comfortable that either one of them will take the chance because I'm really like going for it all.
I think we've got receivers now that can take the top off the defense that maybe we didn't have last year, which will present that opportunity, but it'll also open things up underneath. We've got a couple of really, really, really good tight ends, and those guys are going to be tough to handle. So we have a lot more. We have more weapons on our offense this year than last year, and it's not close.
Yeah, the difference is we had walk-ons in the depth chart for the first game of the week for receivers, but this year we got more scholarship players, and I'm really excited about that. And some of them show flashes at the open practice, like Seth Anderson. Brown got a few good catches, Vines. I'm really excited what they can really produce in the game.
All four of those guys can play. For us. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see. It really is. Like I said, I haven't been this excited going into a season in a long time. I haven't been this invested either. Yeah. So,
Yeah, and I really hope the O-line plays a lot better than last year. I mean, I know they struggle a lot against the front D-line at Kids Day, but going against those guys, it's going to make them better every day and more physical on the field.
Well, what really helps there is we've got 8 or 9 guys that can compete. That I don't think that Kirk or George Barnett would flinch to go to send in to play. Where last year they were looking around for guys and there weren't many to throw in. So if one of the guys struggles or they lack some cohesion, they have other options. So. And they can rotate and keep guys fresh too. It's just like the defensive line. I mean, if you think about the best Iowa football teams going back, I'm going to go back to the 90s because I didn't know much about Iowa football prior to when I showed up. But it seems to me that if you look at the best Iowa football teams, most successful Iowa football teams, they had good lines, defensive line, offensive line. Skill players are one thing, but really the hallmark of our success historically has been being solid on both sides of the line. And I really think defensively on the defensive line, I don't know that we've ever been better. It sucks to lose Shannon. I'm still pissed about that. But we've got other guys. This guy, I mess up his first name, Y.A. Black.
Yeah.
He's been unblockable in the fall. This guy could absolutely blow up this fall. And he's somebody that wasn't even on our radar. Like, people weren't even talking about him last year, and he's been a beast. Aaron Graves is, I think, didn't Kirk say in the press conference he's graduating soon? Like, this guy is like super smart, really physical, works super hard, tremendous young man. Just that we've got some dudes on the defensive line, and our offensive line. We've added some players. The other guys have improved and gotten bigger, stronger, faster. Logan Jones, I think he'll be one of the better centers in the Big Ten, which is a far cry from what he was last year. I know I'm sounding like a homer, but let's watch this play out. But I really think Logan Jones is going to have a big year. I'm fired up.
The only good thing, the silver lining that came from the fact that Noah's the guy that's kind of been targeted by the NCAA is the fact that he plays at a position in which Iowa is loaded, and they're deeper at defensive tackle than any other position on the football field. I think they're deeper at D tackle than they are at D end. And like you said, Wyatt Black, Aaron Graves, Logan Lee, that's 3 starters right there that you have after Noah.
Yeah.
And then I'm high on Ontario Thompson. I don't know. It sounded at media day when I talked with, I think it was Jay Neiman. He said Ontario's learning curve is still understanding the playbook and all that and where he needs to be but he's physically looks the part and is a man at 6'3", 305. He can give them something. I guarantee you he's going to be out there on third downs at times. And with his size, he'll line up on the inside. Brian Allen Jr. was phenomenal during Kids Day. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays. Even with Noah out, they're 9 deep. So
Kelvin Bell has options.
They have options. Anything else, Kyle?
Yeah. First of all, before I want to talk about the Noah Shanahan thing, but I want to ask Brad a quick question. Brad, when I go to a game this year, do you recommend I get the Swarm beer?
What do you mean? Of course.
I mean,
there's no other beer to get.
Nah, get a Bud Light. Get a Bud Light.
Come on.
No, I'm a Busch Light guy.
No, this is better than Busch Light. This is way better than Busch Light.
Oh,
I mean, this way you're drinking a beer and you're helping the Hawks at the same time.
Yeah, if the game's not going the way you go, if the game's not going the way I want to, I'll just go get the Swarm. How's that?
Well, I think
you get the Swarm. You get the Swarm before, and then when the game's not going the way you want to, you drink more of them so that the NIL program's even more successful, so that we don't have those problems next time.
What's the Justin Moore song? That's why we drink when the sun's up, when the sun's down, when you're unhappy, when you're thrilled, all those things.
That's it.
Kyle, thank you for the call as always, sir. We appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you, and go Hawks.
Thank you, sir.
Go Hawks.
All right. That was I enjoy Kyle calling in. So this is a part of our show this evening and why I want to kind of preview who we're going to have on here in a little bit, because we always get these comments and we get them during post-game shows as well. Oh, Kirk says this, Kirk said that 5 minutes ago. Well, it is true that Kirk had a Hawk Talk show here a little bit ago, and I didn't even think about our show interfering with that. But our user BMF395 says that Kirk noted that Cade is expected to go, and I believe T. Hink says the same thing. It's a game-time decision, but we're expecting Cade to go. Apparently that's a quote from Kirk Ferentz. CJ said the same thing. I'm not doubting any of those loyal listeners here on the show. We appreciate all of you, but the great thing we're going to be able to bring to the post-game show with Coach John Patterson this fall is we're going to be introducing a guy who's been on the Iowa beat for a long, long time and will be in the Kirk Ferentz press conferences, post-game press conferences, and then he'll be jumping on with us, with myself and Coach Patterson. That is none other than Tom Kakert of HawkeyeReport.com. So he'll be jumping on with us here this evening and talk a little Iowa football tonight, but he'll be with us throughout the year. And that way we know exactly what Kirk said, and we'll get kind of an instant reaction from Tom and a kind of a different perspective. So I'm excited for that. And I know, Brad, you think very highly of Tom.
I do.
He's a big help to the Swarm.
Close friends, and he volunteers quite a bit of his time to helping out the Swarm. He does our Swarm TV videos and interviews, and he doesn't live in Iowa City either. He lives over in the Quad Cities. He drives over, does the interviews, produces the stuff. Can't thank Tom enough for everything he's doing for our organization.
So we'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to Tom here in a few minutes. Couple questions in the chat. JT wants to know if there's going to be a Swarm tent set up near the gates to grow knowledge of the collective, and we're talking about, of course, about Kinnick. I think I know the answer.
That's one of those things that I'm it's on my wish list of things for Beth gets. But really it's a Learfield issue more than anything else. So what people should know, and this is something I did not know, maybe everybody else in the world knows this, but me before I took on this collective deal, and that is that Learfield pretty much owns anything and everything in around that goes on at Kinnick. The advertising that goes on at Kinnick has to go through Learfield. Learfield owns those rights. The radio shows and all the advertising on the radio shows, that's Learfield. If we want to set up a tent in the parking lot right out in front of the stadium and preach the gospel of the Swarm, that's through Learfield.
You can't set up in your. What if you had a tailgating spot? You can't set up your own tent.
If I have a tailgating spot, which I do, I could have something there, and if people come by my tent or my car in my tailgate, I can tell them about it. Yes. Could I go around and hand out brochures? No. In fact, I think there's only one organization that they let go around in the tailgating lot. It's like one game a year. I think they let the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts or both to go around. You guys may remember that going to the games. That's it. We've talked about that, thought about that. If we're going to do any sort of soliciting, if you will, or kind of spreading the word, it's going to have to be on Melrose or elsewhere. It's going to have to be
walk up and down the sidewalks of Melrose and do it all day.
Nobody can stop us from doing that. We will have some signage out on Melrose. We'll also have our tailgate at the Courtyard by Marriott, right across from the stadium. I encourage any and all of you to show up there. I think the place holds 500 or 600. We have like 300 RSVPs at this point for the first game. If you go there and they don't want to let you in, just drop my name and tell them you're my friend, and come out there and I'll buy you a beer and you can tell me about how excited you are about the game, whatever the case may be. If you can spread the word and try to help get people to join the Swarm, that's really what I appreciate, because this impacts winning. It does. That's the reason I'm doing it. I have learned about one thing I've learned about myself, and this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm 49 and I go back into my 20s and 30s, now 40s. When the Hawkeyes are winning games, I'm a happier guy than when they're losing. And that's pathetic, but it is the truth. Okay? When we're our 12-0 season, I mean, I was like, I was borderline dancing everywhere. I was so excited. Okay. And so one of the reasons I took this on is I want to ensure that that we have good seasons, not poor seasons, or at least more good seasons than poor seasons. And this is the Hawkeye fans' big chance to really impact winning. And so that's why I'm involved. I hope that everybody on the call will consider going to iowaswarm.com and joining the Swarm, telling your friends about it. Come to our tailgates. It's a lot. We have a lot of fun. This week, actually, we're going to have some basketball players that will be there signing autographs and taking pictures. So I think we'll have a DJ as well. It'll be fun. It's on the rooftop and inside if you want to get cool. most importantly for some, the ladies out there, indoor restrooms. Okay. So there you go.
Yeah. I don't want to know what the ladies' restroom is like at Kinnick, but I know what the men's is like.
Situation's it's dire, right?
And I know what the porta potties out on Melrose are like. So.
Oh man. Yeah. So
a couple things here. And we had a caller that hung up here a second ago. Hang tight. If you called us and I put you on hold, you're not going to hear anything. Just hang tight because we're trying to manage a number of things here. So let's get back to our call line. We've actually got JT who left that comment here a few minutes ago on the call line. JT, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. Brad, hope everything's all right after that hurricane.
We dodged a bullet there. That last year was horrible. We're still recovering from that. This time it went west of us. My heart goes out to the people up in what I call the armpit of Florida. That's probably not the best way of calling it, the best characterization, but folks up there, I mean, it's I know what they're about to go through, and it's not been fun.
Yeah. So I hopped on to ask the question that Corey had actually popped up, but that actually sparked a second idea for me was, what could you do about setting up a beer tent at like Finkbein or something where you could sell the vodka and the beer? Is that something you have to go through the university for? Because you kind of own the golf course from your playing days, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. They've almost renamed it. No. So, well, the good thing is that they do sell Swarm vodka and beer at Finkbein, and already, and furthermore, if you're a Swarm member, show them your card and you get 10% off.
Oh,
I mean, the membership pays for itself if you drink enough.
Well, I know where we're tailgating now.
Yeah. I mean, and if they say no, for whatever reason, if you look anything like your picture there, there's no way they're saying no.
Oh, that
you look
was
like such a badass in that picture. I feel like I can't call you JT. I got to call you sir.
That was about 10 years ago in Jacksonville. So
yeah, well, I mean, carry that picture everywhere. I mean, nobody's going to mess with you.
Another question I have for you is like, I know previously you talked about like you can't get involved with the recruiting, obviously, but like, what would be the process if you wanted to like go see a guy like Godfrey play? Because I know he's up in Tampa, or James Reesar over in Jacksonville. Would you be allowed to even like go watch and interact with them at all?
Well, I can't go recruit somebody.
Right.
But what does happen is the kids or the parents want to know about the NIL program at Iowa, and they want to know what opportunities the kids currently have. And they'll ask some of the kids on the team, but they may want more details, and so they call me. And I'll be as candid as I can about, what the program is, what their opportunities will be. And so I can pick up the phone and tell them about the program. There's nothing wrong with that. So
okay, yeah, that was my questions. Appreciate it, guys, and go home.
And people that are transfers are usually a whole lot more interested in the NIL component than say the high school kids who are excited to get a scholarship.
D. Rollison, two favorite words: sports and winning. I think most people on here can unite around that super chat. Thank you, D. Rollison, for that. And we did have a question from D. Rock Irish. Where are you? We've talked about this, but tell people where you are in Florida.
I'm in Fort Myers. I live right on the Caloosahatchee River. So we had 150 mile an hour winds at my house last year, and 15 feet of storm surge. Unfortunately, my house is 7 feet above. So it's not good math. I'm an actuary. That's not good math. So the math's not working for me. But yeah, I'm in Fort Myers. We got spared yesterday, and it's one of those weird feelings where you're grateful that it didn't hit us, but you feel bad for who it did hit. So
We're going to get to more with Brad. We've got Tom Kert on hold. We've got one more caller to get to before we get to Tom. Caller, thank you for calling Hawkeye Hangout. Who's on the line?
This is John, Corey.
Hey, John.
Hey, Brad.
How you doing?
Good. Where were we at after the women in the national championship game? Did that increase activity in the swarm a lot more, or not so much, or where were we at on that?
Oh, the women's women's basketball team?
Yeah, when they were in the national championship game, did you see a big increase in the activity on the swarm for them, or where'd that go?
You know, we did get a few more women's basketball only donations. Yes, they have a contingent there for sure. It certainly wasn't the broad, hey, let's join the swarm membership boom that I would have hoped for, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, obviously, if football ever made to the college football playoff or won the Big Ten, I would expect a pretty big jump. Same with basketball, but men's basketball, women's basketball, for one reason or the other, it didn't happen on a grand scale. But the women's program did get some additional donations for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. That's something I was curious about, and
Yep.
you're on, so I wanted to ask you.
Yep. Thank you.
Always good to hear from you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Our phone line, our actual phone line, 515-635-1601, is open right now if you want to call and ask Brad or Tom Kert a question. He'll be jumping on with us here in just a second. Again, you're watching Hawkeye Hangout here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We'll get a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back again with myself, Tom Kert, and Brad Heinrichs of the Swarm. To Iowa Floor Covering, a locally owned flooring store in Bondurant, Iowa that specializes in do-it-yourself projects. If you're a contractor or a DIYer, Iowa Floor Covering has your back. Right now at Iowa Floor Covering, get tough core click-together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring for $269 per foot when you install it yourself. That's a much better value than you'll find at any of the big box stores. Looking for other types of flooring? They can help with that too. Between their exceptional product knowledge and commitment to customer service, the guys at Iowa Floor Covering will provide everything you need to complete your DIY flooring project. So what are you waiting for? Skip the box stores now and visit iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. That's iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. Promotional pricing only available with self-installation. So we appreciate Iowa Floor Covering. As always, they've been with us for quite some time and helping to support the show this evening. Certainly give them a call. Look them up at iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. They'll be with us throughout the season ahead. Speaking of the season ahead, let's go to a guy who's been covering the many seasons of the Kirk Ferentz era. That's Mr. Tom Kert. Tom.
Hey.
Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Hey, Brad.
What's up, Tom?
We're going to do a podcast of the conversations that Brad and I have.
That would be, spicy.
They would be spicy for sure.
Has Pete been on the podcast, Tom? Have you had him on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was the first one that had him on when he was still incognito.
I was still Tex Hawk on his message board.
Are you not Texas Hawk anymore?
I don't know that anybody even thinks of me as Tex Hawk anymore, but whatever. I don't care what you call me, just call me.
Can you tell us where that name came from?
Yeah, I mean, literally out of college, my family, we moved to Dallas, and I started paying it because I'm just a Hawkeye fan junkie, like the three of us here.
Yeah.
And so I started going on the message boards, and I think the first one was like the easy board, and then it went to like, it was like, I don't remember the Pantheon. John Miller had one, and then there was another one, Super Hawkeye or whatever it was. Anyway, it just kind of evolved, and I just kept I started with Tex Hawk because I was a Texas Hawkeye. And then I just kept it as I moved to Florida in 2005, been here ever since. And nobody knew who the hell I was really up until the last year. And so now here I am. Now I'm doing podcasts at 10 o'clock at night.
9:30.
9:30. Yeah,
We've
it'll
done
be
them
10.
a lot later, just for the record.
I
So.
know when I do a podcast with Corey, I'm not getting home till midnight.
That's right. So somebody asked in the chat earlier, they wanted to confirm that you're not drinking Stella tonight. You showed the can. You're drinking Swarm beer. So have you?
Yeah. No, I've quit. I've quit drinking Stella. It's
good for you.
It's nice, but it just doesn't help out my Swarm organization like the Swarm beer does.
Hey, Brad, did you happen to get Kirk a Swarm beer yet? Has he?
That's a great question. So this is fun. He turned 68 on August 1st. I had 68 Swarm beers delivered to the Ferentz residence on August 1st for his birthday. So he had not had any Swarm beer. Well, I gave him 68 Swarm beers for his birthday.
I have a question, Brad, based on
Sure.
that. This is kind of how my mind works. We talked about the Noah Shannon situation. Obviously, Kirk and his immediate family members are unable to directly give to the Swarm.
That's right.
Stop me if you've heard this before. But what prevents Kirk from literally just ordering a billion cases of Swarm beer?
I guess that's possible, right? There would be nothing at that point, right? I mean, because what he's doing is he's buying something from he's buying an Exile beer, and the way it works is that Exile looks and sees how much beer they have sold of the Swarm beer to the distributors or out of their brewery, and what their total sales for the month, and they take that times 0.2, 20%, and they write a check to us for that 20%. They don't even know who's going to ultimately end up buying that beer because it's going through a distributor, right? The distributor buys it. Could whoever just buy up the whole thing? I guess so.
And we've asked this question before as well.
Let's not ask Kirk that question though at the next press conference.
You're on that, Tom. But I just want to make this clear, Brad. There is something against the rules or the fine print of what has been stipulated regarding NIL that would prevent someone like Kirk Ferentz or any coach from donating to an organization that would then provide a deal to an athlete, right?
You can't, because they kind of view that as, he's a representative and an employee of the athletic department. And so they kind of would view that, I think there were an SEC school or two that was talking about paying their coach an extra $3 or $4 million a year, and then that coach turning around and writing a check to the NIL organization for that extra 3 or 4, sort of a wink, wink, nod, nod deal. And so I think that was what was potentially behind that ruling. So now you can't, if you're a coach, I don't know if administrators are the same. I can't remember, but I know coaches are not able to personally fund NIL programs, and obviously the Iowa athletic department cannot directly fund our NIL program. They can market for us and fundraise for us, but they cannot write the check for us.
So, Tom, first of all, thank you for being here. I know you just got done recording a podcast with Matt Rendazzo. I'm assuming that'll be dropping here soon on your website. Put a plug in for that here a little bit, but I just want to get your take. Brad opened with, I think, some positive gesture toward the idea that Cade will probably play. It sounds like Kurt commented on Hawk Talk this evening that he expects Cade to play. I mean, I know people have speculated that Cade would sit out. I've never really bought into that, although I don't, I don't talk to Cade on a daily basis. So just curious, are we in the same line of thought there? Have you really ever doubted the idea that he'd be starting on Saturday?
Well, I don't think Cade's ever doubted that he's going to start. I think Brad will echo that with me. That Cade is a strong-willed guy, and he went through a lot last year in his time at Michigan too, and that was prior to the surgery where, he played with a lot of pain. He worked with a lot of pain, and he's got a pretty high tolerance for pain. So And he desperately wanted to be out there on this Saturday, and it would have probably, it would have deflated him quite a bit not to be able to run out of that tunnel with his helmet and shoulder pads on with his brothers. It's really remarkable. This tells you the impact of this kid on the program, that his teammates elected him captain, and he's been here since January. That tells you the amount of respect that he has generated in the locker room from his teammates, because that doesn't come easy. I mean, they could have easily elected somebody else to be a captain, and nobody would have blinked an eye. It could have been any number of offensive players, and that he did that just tells you how much these guys really think of him and how much they respect him. And I just think it's going to be a jolt of energy to the program to get him out there under center. He might, it might be a Willis Reed situation where he's just out there and kind of just doing his thing, but, maybe dealing a little bit, but not just doing a whole lot of magical things. But I suspect they're going to take it easy with him, get him out in and out of there. Here's the ideal situation, guys. 28-3 at half. You can just shut him down. Deacon Hill comes in, handles the second half. You get a lot of LeSean, a little bit of Jazzian, and then you kind of cruise to the finish line. That's the ideal scenario. Now, we know nothing ever goes ideally, but this you kind of hope this is the way it is. Brad, what do you think? That's the ideal, right?
That's ideal. I don't think that they're gonna try to resurrect the Chuck Long naked bootleg if they get down inside the 10. My hunch is he's not going to do a whole lot of, sprint runouts of the pocket. But with that said, I expect him to play. Yeah. Barring some setback, I think he'll play. I think he'll play well. I think that Hawkeye fans are going to walk out and go, we might have something. That's what I think. I don't think this is going to be 7-3.
Now, Brad, you've been listening to Kirk Ferentz a long time, as I have, and Corey, weigh in on this too, because Matt and I were just talking about this, and that is, I have never heard Kirk so effusive in his praise for a position group more than he has for the offensive line this summer. Given the number of question marks,
the idea, Tom, that is he trying to speak this into existence?
Yes, I did. I threw that out there that he's trying to speak it into it, or do like a Stuart Smalley. You're good enough, and darn it, you can do it. Something like that. I think but I'm convinced now that he believes they're going to be really good, and I am. And if they're really good, guess what? Caleb Johnson's running for 150 yards on Saturday. Well, that's what's going to happen.
Let me just say this. Utah State's run defense was awful last year.
Awful, yes.
If Iowa can't run the ball, and I said this yesterday on the show, if Iowa can't run the ball against Utah State, and I know they're going to be a little bit different, but they lost a couple of guys up front defensively. If Iowa can't run the ball against Utah State Saturday, I think there's a bit of an alarm that goes off. And maybe you don't push the panic button, but
yeah,
is that fair? This is not a run defense that Iowa should struggle to, or I should say a line that Iowa should struggle to dominate.
Yeah, I would agree. I talked to one of their beat writers the other day, and yeah, he's like, there are a ton of new faces, a lot of JUCO guys. They don't really know what they have. He was kind of like, you're getting them at the perfect time to get Utah State, because they just don't have any clue how good they are or how bad they are. They kind of just don't know on either side of the ball. The quarterback, Legis, is pretty decent. He played a little bit last year, but they're really green, and they've got a lot of new pieces out there. And the head coach is calling plays this year. They got a new DC, and they had a lot of people leave after last year. So it's a lot of new faces and new places there.
They do have one thing that we don't have. They have a dude that blocked 3 punts last year.
Yes. The guy from their beat writer told me he blocked 4.
Or maybe it was 4. Might have been 4.
Kurt said
some
3.
obscene number. Like, that's almost impossible.
Yes. Yep. He's a really good young safety too.
I will say this: Utah State dealt with a lot of injury last year. I mean, Iowa did too, but the Aggies suffered a lot on an injury front. I wouldn't be surprised, and I have not listened to any press conferences from the Utah State side, and you've had probably more conversations given the fact that you had talked to a beat writer, Tom, but I wouldn't be shocked if they deploy both quarterbacks. Levi Williams, I think he was banged up last year. Go back, and I know, Brad, you probably didn't bother to watch it 2 years ago. Go back and watch the 2021 famous Idaho Potato Bowl when Levi Williams was quarterbacking Wyoming and went up against Kent State, who Iowa beat earlier that season. Levi Williams looked like somebody that everybody should know. He transferred out. I figured he'd go to a P5 school, then got hurt last year. I'm actually kind of surprised that he's not the starter. So, anyways, quick note.
I'm surprised you watched the Idaho Potato Bowl, Corey. I don't care who's in it.
Do you love college football or do you not love college football? Did you watch Utah State?
There's a limit, Corey. I mean, the Idaho Potato Bowl.
It's famous. The famous Idaho Potato Bowl.
The famous Idaho Potato Bowl. A lot of people probably think that's where we live, right? Or that's where
right.
Iowa City is, right?
That's right. So, anyways, Levi Williams, watch out for the backup quarterback. Couple things in the chat that I know we're kind of getting old on, and I want to make sure we cover this. ZJ, this is a question for Brad. How is the communication channel now with the interim AD, Beth Getz, and Jake kind of alluded to that as well, the relationship between the Swarm and yourself, Brad, and Beth. Can you kind of transcribe what that's been like?
Sure, yeah. I've been in constant communication is not the right words, but we have been communicating quite a bit. We've met in person a couple of times. One was impromptu, another one was scheduled where I gave her my wish list of things I'd like for her to help us with. And, one of the very first thing on my list was, I would like for you to make frequent calls to ARMS to try to help our NIL program. Well, that was literally a week ago. And what happened this morning? I don't know if you noticed,
I did,
but Iowa Athletics sent out a tweet basically saying swarm with us kind of deal. And the Kirk video and whatnot, really just trying to advertise and market for our organization, which I really, really appreciate. I mean, I think the Swarm probably has, 8,000-9,000 followers on Twitter, and maybe Instagram is somewhere similar. I don't know. Well, their website has like 300,000. So they're reaching more of the masses than what we are currently. And so, her doing that for us is going to help. And hopefully that will continue. So I have nothing but great things to say about Beth. I have nothing but great things to say about, her embracing NIL and supporting our organization. Obviously we're at the very beginning. We're in the top of the first inning in all of this, but I have zero complaints at this point.
Just want to how many times has she called you?
Oh gosh, it's several. I mean, when I say call, a lot of times it's a text, just because we're both pretty busy people. But I've got tons of texts from her. Yes.
Can you guesstimate?
She's probably reached out to me 10 times, since August 1st.
Okay, so 10, and then how many times did Gary Barlow reach out to you? Just to clear that up. You can say it. It's no secret.
Never.
Brad.
I mean, I met with Gary before I even started the organization, telling him what I was going to do, and I didn't ever hear from him. I mean, I'm not trying to I don't want to throw the guy on the bus. He's gone. He's he's not. But the answer to your question is none.
You write your own legacy, Brad.
I know, but
I understand. All right, let's. We've got James, who's been on hold for a long, long time. James, welcome to the show. James,
how you doing, Corey?
Hey, how are you? I'm good.
Good. First question: Who obviously, I know your answer, but who do you think is going to win tomorrow? Michigan or Minnesota or Nebraska?
Minnesota.
All right. And then second off, Iowa State or UNI? Because I think UNI might have a better chance than we think with.
I like Iowa State. I think Iowa State's, from what I've been told, Iowa State's maybe a little bit deeper than, well, significantly deeper than they were last year. I know they've dealt with some top end damage due to the betting stuff, but I think they're better. They're going to be good defensively again. And we'll see. I mean, the quarterback situation is my big question mark, and I don't know how good they're going to be up front. I know they've got a new left tackle who transferred in a year ago but hasn't started. This will be his first time out as a full-time starter. So, I mean, there's still question marks offensively, and Jalen Knoll, is he going to be? They've had such a long, deep stretch of great receivers. I don't know that he can fill that void, but I still think, I mean, I'd have a hard time predicting that an FCS UNI program is going to come into Jack Trice and win. So,
I mean, you can never sleep. I mean, I don't predict it either, but you can never sleep on UNI. They're tough. I mean, they played us tough a couple times. UNI.
But I can tell you that Iowa State is taking them seriously. I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but I can tell you that they are taking them seriously, and they should. Well coached, and there's a reason why they've given teams like Iowa and Iowa State both scares in the past.
For sure. What's one thing you're most intrigued about on Saturday? What's one thing you're most intrigued about watching?
Is this for me or Tom or Brad?
For anybody, anybody.
Let's start with Tom. What are you most intrigued for Saturday, Tom?
I want to see Cade out there, and I want to see the offensive line and see how they perform. I think that's the most intriguing thing, and some of those young receivers. You've just the offense in general. We've heard a lot of buzz about Seth Anderson, about Deontay Bynes. I want to see those guys. I want to see them making plays. I mean, that Eric All. I did a little plug for the Swarm. Did some Swarm interviews last Thursday. People, if you sign up for the Swarm, you can watch these, and they're really fun interviews with Eric and Luke Lachey that just went up this week, and Luke talks about how he's almost like a Marvel character with Eric catching the ball. It just kind of like pulls it out of thin air and just makes these spectacular catches. So, that tight end position really loaded right now as well. But I'm anxious to see the offensive line, because if the offensive line is good, buckle up, kids. It's going to be a fun season.
Brad, is that? I'm guessing you're going to be consistent with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I can argue with any of that. Really can't. I think corner is going to be interesting opposite
Yes.
Cooper, and seeing how that plays out will be something I'll be paying attention to. So that's probably on defense. That's the one thing. That's the one place I'm going to be interested in watching. Obviously, I'll want to watch Nick Jackson because I've never watched him in person play. Tremendous guy, and he's awesome. He's a tackling machine. So I'm looking forward to watching him. But offensively is probably where it's all. I mean, we've watched stagnant offense for the last 13 games at least, and so. I think every Hawkeye fan is frothing at the mouth to see something other than, 2 yards in a cloud of dust, or, 3rd and 8, 3 and outs. I told Torrey Taylor, I hope he's very underutilized this year.
So, couple things. Sounds like maybe Brad and Tom know something I don't know regarding the cornerback position. Is there some fireworks that we're gonna Freudian
warm-ups?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. Look, but the point of the matter there is, no matter who is opposite Cooper, right? You got to know that person's going to get a lot of passes thrown their way, right? I mean, Cooper DeJean is a preseason first-team All-American. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. If I'm an offensive coordinator for anybody else we play, I'm probably if I want to keep my job, I'm going to want to not throw towards Cooper to Gene as much as I possibly can. So seeing how well we play on that other side is going to be going to be important. So I'm going to be paying attention to that.
Okay. Just real quick, a couple things. Tom, do you anticipate that? I know Kirk really couldn't comment on it on Tuesday. Do you anticipate hearing if there are other guys who we expect there will be other players unavailable due to suspensions regarding the betting stuff? Will we get that on an availability report prior to the game?
That's a good question, and I don't think Kirk even knew that, because some of the stuff regarding the gambling thing, they are saying that it falls under the FERPA regulations. So if that's the case, they may not be able to say specifically why they're out. Other guys, they may be able to say there's more specificity, I guess, if that's the word, and they'll be able to be more specific about it. What the at least general, like lower body injury or something is my guess. Is Kirk's not going to keep it it's not going to go too in depth. I mean, with the Cade thing, he's always just said it's tissue injury or things like that. So
I think what you're referring to, Corey, isn't there a new rule that says
yes,
like
2 hours
before kick, you gotta show your hand a little bit about if someone's someone's out, you kind of got to say it at that point.
But to Tom's point, that was asked specifically of Kirk yesterday, and he didn't know the answer. I mean, that rule just dropped here within the last week. I'm just like, what you said makes sense too, Tom. Like if they say I won't even say a specific name, but Joe Schmo is out for an unspecified reason, we're all going to be able to figure out what that unspecified reason is, more than likely, right? So regardless of what'd you call it? It's not HIPAA. What is it? The laws that are in place?
FERPA. Yes.
FERPA or HERPA?
FERPA. F with the FERPA.
Okay, yes. Like fur baby. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think for people that are confused out there, I think the reason why we know about Shannon, for example, is that I think he conceded and basically says, I don't care if anybody knows. Isn't that right? I think he kind of volunteered that information to the public. And so that's why his stuff is out there, and it's kind of, widely known what his situation is. Any other people that are involved, that hasn't happened.
So my question then becomes, again, not important in the long range, but not consequential. But had Kirk not elected to send Noah Shannon to Big Ten Media Day, would we even know about the Noah Shannon situation?
Unless he admitted it if somebody asked him,
Yeah, but I mean, have you been going around asking the players? Did you bet?
I didn't ask any of them. I haven't asked any of them.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, unless I don't know why that we would probably even know anything about that. We'd probably all think he's good to go, and I don't know.
That's a very fair question.
I'm just speculating.
See now, my bad, Corey. I wasn't trying to butt in.
Go ahead, James.
Does one of those or two of those guys who are on that list, right? Do they play this week? And then it's like Noah Shannon didn't play this week because he ratted himself out. So then, what's that like? You know what I mean? Like, how is that fair that those guys will get to play this week? Let's say they do, right?
They're not going to play. The NCAA has notified Iowa of the people of the whatever you want to call them, the people that have committed the infraction, so that Iowa knows not to play them.
Oh, so we just
don't. The difference is that these players, other than Shannon, have not made that public, and that's their. There it is, Robert Payne. Thank you. That that 1974. That's a good year. It's when Gerald Ford signed the first piece of legislation when he got into office. It was the ERISA. Apparently, he signed this too, but the Employee Retirement Income Security Act was signed in 1974. Only reason I know that is because that's the Bible for which I do my pension work. But anyhow, in any event, these guys haven't come forward and admitted it. So that's the deal there.
My bad. I must have.
No, you're good.
Did that wrong there.
Anything else, James?
No, just one thing. Obviously, looking forward to the season, and hopefully we can stay healthy because we don't want to go to our 6th, 7th string wide receivers again, because I think that's a little bit of a struggle, and that puts you in a little bit of a bind, you know, when you have to go that deep on the. I don't even know if it's 6 or 7, but it felt like 6 or 7 because you've seen a lot of names out there, but you know, a lot of names like Keegan Johnson and all them as well. But
yeah, we've got four guys ready to play for sure, and you got someone like Alec Wick who is a walk-on that actually was playing pretty well in camp. Same with this kid Weechin, super fast kid, small but fast. But one of the things I will say is that when I was there watching practice last week, these freshmen they got aren't bad. They look pretty good. There's a future there at wide receiver. So I'm pretty excited about the freshmen they brought in. You know, Seth Anderson and Caleb Brown each have 3 years left. So there's a lot of development that can happen for two guys that are pretty much ready to excel right now. So I'm very excited about the wide receiver position.
one more question for Brad. How is Swarm, how is it affecting like our recruiting, like in the 2024, 2025? Like, is that what a lot of the kids are talking about, or?
Well, I mean, what happens is that the high school kids want to know about NIL and what their opportunities will be. But my hunch is that that's not the deciding factor for the kids that we recruit. And just to be clear, we're not paying these kids to come to Iowa, these high school kids. There'll be opportunities when they get there and they know it and they know about them. I can tell you that the transfer portal, if we did not have the NIL program that we have, a majority of those kids would not have come here. They may not say that publicly, but that's my opinion. And then the other thing I'll tell you as it pertains to it, and it's not really recruiting, but you know, I think we've got some guys that, you know, even like Shannon, just not to mention him as one, but I think there were some guys that had the ability or the opportunity to leave Iowa and go on to different, you know, to greener pastures and maybe even in the NFL that came back because they know what kind of NIL opportunities exist for them at Iowa or through the Swarm. So I think our roster is quite a bit better. I know Tom's pretty close to this. Hopefully you'll agree. I think our roster is quite a bit better than it would be if our NIL program didn't exist.
Let me add this. So last Thursday, I sat down with Joe Evans and Cade McNamara and asked them the differences Swarm made in them. And, you know, Cade gave a very passionate answer that I hope people will watch and listen to. But Joe basically said flat out, he's not coming back for a 6th year if it wasn't for the Swarm. So, you know, and that's going to be one of your key players, a team captain that you've got back because of the Swarm. And these guys are passionate about it. They love doing it. Talking to Luke Lachey, he's doing a ton of stuff with like Big Brothers, Big Sisters in Johnson County and making an impact. And he loves it. He's enjoyed it. All these guys have really enjoyed doing things in the community. Cooper DeJean, I talked to him last week about it, and he was super excited about what he's been able to do with the Swarm and making a difference, like even like delivering meals to people and different things that they normally wouldn't be able to do. They wouldn't do these things. And it brightens the day of a lot of these kids when they go to a school and talk to them and just, or even just playing a game in gym class with them is just, you know, could be I wouldn't say life-changing, but it could be a thing that gets a kid right on the right path. And you just never know when that little moment is going to make a big impact on somebody's life, and especially a young person. So this has been great. And I'm just so impressed with the guys and getting to, you know, in the Swarm interviews that we're doing. I mean, they're fun because we don't talk a ton of football. We talk some, but we don't talk. It's not like the focus. It's getting to know these guys as people, as human beings. And it's fun to talk to them about their lives and what it's like for them to play football, but also be a student and be a friend, and just those relationships. It's pretty cool.
And Lemansky, appreciate the super chat. Just got done joining the swarm. I'm going to try to spit the rest of this out. Lemansky sometimes speaks in language that's hard for me to read because he's very eloquent. He says, getting my t-shirt soon. Let's meet Michigan at the end of the season and whip Jimmy's blank. Just like Houtland's kick did back in the day. Sac City 2023, go Hawks, class of 1985. We're talking about big years. 1985 is a pretty special year in Hawkeye history as well. So thank you,
was.
Appreciate that super chat. And James, is there anything else?
Nope. Good. Have a good night, y'all, and ready for some football on Saturday, and hopefully Minnesota can beat Nebraska tomorrow.
Sounds good, sir.
Go Hawks. Or they can both lose somehow.
Yeah. There you go. From a football standpoint, if you're an Iowa fan, you're probably rooting for Nebraska tomorrow. Is that fair, Tom?
Maybe.
I know.
I don't know.
From
That's a hard one. That's that's hard. It's hard to root for Nebraska.
I know.
It's hard for Iowa fans to root for, especially they've gotten awfully chesty after last year. The first time they won in like 7 years, and they are just the online Nebraska fans. They're a different breed, man. You think they won the national title last year when they beat Iowa?
Well, you feel like they win the national title every year when they're packing 70,000 into the spring game.
I will give them credit. Tonight they've got a packed house for that volleyball game. 91,000 fans. That's unbelievable. That's so awesome, and it's going to be really awesome when there's 40,000+ people in Kinnick Stadium to watch Caitlin Clark and the Iowa women's basketball team have an exhibition game against DePaul.
Okay, a couple things here in the chat, and then we're going to take our final brief break and hit some hard-hitting questions. This is a question I'm going to throw to Tom because it's a question from a user. How bad is Joey's injury? Well, Joe Labus apparently is back, but Tom, do you know anything specific about the Joe Labus injury?
The only thing Kirk has said is that it's soft tissue. I think it was back maybe, but he is back. He's at practice, so it's good. He'll probably – it's added depth, and Iowa needs that. With Cade, coming back from an injury, you need as many experienced quarterbacks as you can have, and he's won a bowl game. That's something that's impressive. So happy that Joey's back and ready to play.
One of the silver linings of Cade's injury was that Deacon Hill took a lot of reps.
Yeah.
In practice. Marco took some as well, but Deacon was out there a lot. I mean, I thought his arm was going to fall off. He was taking a lot of reps, and that could end up proving helpful. I'm hoping not. Again, going back to our earlier conversation, Corey. Let's hope that we never have to see him. But I don't think that it hurt Deacon Hill to spend a week or two at the helm with the ones and getting a lot of reps. So
I will bring this up because, again, this is how the podcast flies. This is how the show flies. But Tom recorded a preview with Coach Patterson 2 days ago, and it got brought up. And I think it's a fair thing to bring up. And you and I discussed it briefly on the sidelines of Kids Day. We're not fat shaming anyone or weight shaming anyone. Yeah. But the latest data, and this is according to Iowa's roster, and of course the depth chart that was released, Deacon Hill is still 258.
Yeah, they won't change that anyway.
He's not 258.
I think he is. I mean, hey, listen, Donald Trump is 215, so Deacon Hill can't be more than 258.
So
true.
Whatever that means. So Tom, you think he's less than 258?
I don't know. They what they typically do, they don't update those weights during the season. Okay. So they won't update them again until spring, probably.
I'll just say this. This is my opinion, and it actually is the opinion of Coach Patterson because he said that. If he's 258, that's a problem. He ain't
Well,
big Ben Roethlisberger.
Kirk even said the other day, "I've never had a quarterback that big," and he wasn't talking about Dan McGuire.
I know.
You know?
or what's his name?
Nate Chandler.
Nate Chandler was what, 67 or 6'7", maybe 6'6"?
Yeah, Chandler's like 6'6", and he was probably about 240, I would guess.
Deacon's 6'3".
I know.
Deacon's a big boy. You know, I'm still trying to get the Duncan, like the Deacon Donut NIL deal for him, but we have not been able to pull that off yet.
The Deacon Donut. Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Hertz Donuts is missing out, man.
Man,
I know, right?
Have you reached out to Hertz, Brad? Or
no, I have not. I you know, this kid's such a great kid. He came up and introduced himself to me last week. I mean, literally, he came up, he specifically sought me out, wanted to shake my hand, say thank you for all that I'm doing, and you know, just a really nice kid. I you know, I shouldn't have even made that joke. He's such a good dude.
No, it's not. I didn't think there's anything wrong. He's 258. It's public information. It's out there. He's 250.
He's all of it. He's all of it.
I'll just say this, and with all joking aside, and Brandon brings up the fact that Nate Stanley was 240. I am just saying we're laughing about it now, but if Cade at 209 gets hurt and Deacon steps in at 258 and the line breaks down and he's a statue like Spencer Petras was over the last 3 years, fans are not going to be laughing at that 3-digit number. I'm just saying that right now.
He won't. Let's put it this way: he's not going to fall down real fast either, though. I mean, he's sturdy.
And let's Brad and I will tell you this too. He's got a big arm.
Huge arm. I was saying it earlier.
Zip it. I mean, he could throw the football. So, and I think he's decently mobile. He's more mobile than Petras.
He is.
Can I just, and this is the last thing I'll say when we move on from weight. He'd be more mobile if he didn't weigh 258. I'm just saying, right? I mean, I know.
I don't think that part is gonna change. I think, you know, he is who he is, and but when I've watched him move outside the pocket, it doesn't. I mean, he can move a little bit. I mean, it's not as if he's sedentary. So but he's got such a big arm. And he loves to throw deep. So
yeah. So Bob, thank you for joining the swarm. He says he just joined.
Oh, awesome! Thanks, Bob.
Good deal.
I really appreciate it.
I did not put the link in the description prior to going live, but I'll put it in the description. Brad, go ahead and put a plug in for how people can join the swarm.
Oh yeah, go to iowaswarm.com and right on the homepage, there's a way. You can join and become a member. You could or just make a one-time donation if it whatever suits your budget and your fancy. Love to have you. Again, I think it's one of those things in talking to members. You immediately become a little bit more invested, and I think you'll have a little bit more fun watching the Hawks, knowing that you're a swarm member this fall. So love to have you. You'll get a membership card, discounts all over town, T-shirts, decals, all sorts of stuff. You get to see Tom's interviews with players. Attend my tailgates. I'll buy you beers. It's gonna be fun.
Tailgates are awesome.
Say it again, Tom.
Those tailgates are awesome too over at the Marriott. And they're going to be even better because you got Swarm beer this year.
Yes, there will be Swarm beer.
When do those start, Brad?
3 hours before kick at least. This week it'll be, I think, literally 3 hours. We're not going anywhere. There's not going to be 6 a.m. Bloody Marys or anything.
Okay.
So I think 8 o'clock. I think it starts at 8.
Right.
8, worst case 8:30, but I think it's 8 o'clock.
So super chat from James, appreciate this, but he says we have Swarm vodka. Will we see Swarm whiskey? And that actually is a question that resonates with me because I'm more of a whiskey guy than a vodka or beer guy. Do you have an answer to that, Brad?
Not definitive, but there are discussions ongoing. So I hate to use the phrase "I wouldn't bet against it," but that's sort of raw right now with Iowa football. So let's just say I will see. I think there's a decent chance.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, you could go the whole. I know the swarm is not. We're not talking about bumblebees, but you could use the whole swarm mantra and integrate a honey whiskey and kind of, I don't know, just always,
there you go,
always
with
think
the
of ways
bees.
to promote, right? Market.
If there was enough people that I knew that would drink it, I'd probably do anything. If I was to bet, the next swarm item might be water.
Well, this Saturday, we could use that this Saturday at the
Right.
Tom, has there been anything? I haven't seen anything. I've gotten any releases. There hasn't been anything about Iowa giving away waters at the game on Saturday, like they have.
I think so. I thought I saw something.
Yeah, there was something about water bottles. They're going to give 10,000 water bottles away or something.
I didn't see
I don't
that.
know if the water bottles are full of water or not, but there's something like that. Yeah. Like the first so many fans that come into the game get a water bottle. I'm assuming there's water in it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's supposed to be 95 is the high on Saturday.
Holy
90.
cow.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be 90 in Ames the following week too.
Great.
Yeah. Well, September in Iowa. All right. We are going to take a quick break in order to thank our sponsor, Ascent Nutrition. They've been with us for a long, long time as well. And you probably heard me talk about Ascent. Lance Shuttler is an Iowa graduate, and the many products they have available to you. You can start your Ascent today by visiting goascentnutrition.com, specifically their new mushroom powders, including their agarikon and their lion's mane mushroom. Both of these products have been tested by great research and have been linked to stronger lung health, immune system health, inflammatory response in your body. Both of these mushroom powders can be mixed into yogurts or granolas, juices, smoothies, and of course paired with some of Ascent's other great products like their algae oil DHA, or how about their Ascent coffee, their mold and mycotoxin-free coffee, which got to make a part of your daily routine. Be sure to visit goascentnutrition.com. Use the code Hawkeyes at checkout for 15% off your order. And again, folks, if you're enjoying content like this evening and you're looking forward to post-game coverage this fall and just everything this platform has to offer, please start your Ascent today. Support all of our sponsors, Go Ascent Nutrition and Ascent Nutrition. Thank you to Lance and his team for sponsoring yet another year of Iowa sports here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Okay, let's get everybody the same size. There we go. Okay, a couple things here, and we'll log off. I know, Brad, it's going on 10:30 out in the East Coast. What time do you get up in the morning to start your actual job?
Usually 5:45. Okay,
so that's earlier than I get up for my actual job. So I just wanted to clear that up. And Nancy, thank you for the super chat. And this is more directed towards Tom. He says, "Thanks for covering the Hawks. You don't drink like a hawk, but Brad does." So thank you for that, Lemansky. And there's the swarm, the golden ale. What do you think of the golden ale, Tom?
Oh, it's awesome. It reminds me of Big Wave.
Big Wave? What's that? I don't even know what that is.
Kona Big Wave beer. Yeah, it's a good beer.
Proves I'm not a beer guy. Kona Big Wave. Okay.
Good. It's the only beer I drink anymore is Swarm beer, and that's it. That's it. There's nothing else.
I love you, Tom.
I know. I told Brad on our family vacation this year, I brought it down to Missouri for my family, and they loved it. So
Mom's now serving it in his wife's restaurant.
Yep, we have it at the
I call
restaurant.
it your wife's restaurant. I mean, it's your restaurant too, but
I'm not really involved.
Okay,
my name's on some paperwork. My name's on some paperwork. But
go ahead.
Anyway, yeah, we've got Swarm beer down at Cavort in downtown Davenport, 3rd and Brady Street. If you want to stop by, if you're going to a show at the Adler Theater or something, you can sit down and have a great meal, great chef, and then you can have a Swarm beer with it.
I'm just curious.
That's what I would recommend.
I'll be going to a show at McGrath Amphitheater in September. Is the Swarm available at the concessions over at McGrath, Brad?
Oh, I would expect so. If not, I mean, we need to fix it.
We do need to fix that. Tom, are you a frequent of McGrath?
Don't know what that is.
Concert venue right there on the river up in Cedar Rapids. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll check it out. I'll do some scouting for you in a couple of weeks, Brad, and
The only concert I'm going to see Pearl Jam in a week. That's all I'm going to see.
Ooh,
good for you. That's not going to be Cedar Rapids.
No, that's Chicago.
Good for you. So Anthony wants to know if Brad has any insights into Caleb Johnson's Powerade deal. My guess is no, but go ahead and tell us, Brad.
I actually do, but I can't. Okay. It's a private deal.
Sure.
These are the kinds of things I can't give you many details, but what I can say is that Powerade's only sponsoring. Gosh, it's less than a handful of guys. I think
6 players.
It was 6 players. Okay. Well, it depends on if you've got 6 fingers or not, then whether it's a handful. But yeah, so not many guys. So that's a cool thing for him, and I'm hopeful that he has a big year, and this is the first of many. I mean, he's got when I saw him walk in the facility last year before he'd ever played a game, I looked at him and looked at Brian, and Brian goes, "That's a freshman." And I go, "Oh my!" I mean, he did not look like a freshman last year, and he's bigger this year, and he claims that he has not lost a step. He says he's every bit as fast as he was last year, and he's 10 pounds heavier. So he could be in for a huge year.
He's got a long stride. He's deceptively fast, and you're right. He looks the part
And I think his biggest improvement, from what I can tell, he's starting to pick up pass protection. I think that was his biggest weakness last year. Pass protection was something that I don't think he did much of in high school. No. And so I'm sure they just handed him the ball, but that was something that he struggled with a little bit last year, but I think he's improved quite a bit. So that'll be interesting to watch on Saturday.
We're going to kind of go quick fire on the final few questions here. Brett wants to know if there's any way to get the Swarm beer. I'm assuming he's not talking about Denver, Iowa. He's talking about Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. From what I understand, Exile is talking to distributors in Colorado to see if they can make that happen. Colorado's one of those hot spots. I think Colorado, maybe Phoenix, Scottsdale area, Minneapolis. I think Nebraska already has some on the eastern side of Nebraska. Obviously, the Chicagoland area. And then I'm obviously lobbying for Florida, but I haven't gotten anywhere yet. So I just have to carry it with me whenever I go places. Go from Iowa back home.
What's the hang up with certain areas not being able to get the beer? Because obviously there's a lot of alum down in Florida.
Yeah, I think the way what I'm told, I don't know the answer, Corey, but what I've been told, and it may have just been a go away, Brad, don't ask me again, but what I'm told is that Exile has to sell. They can't just sell direct to consumer unless it's from their facility, okay? And they can't ship it online. That's like against the rules, against the law, I guess. So they have to go through a distributor, and so these distributors have contracts with the breweries for the beer, and so Exile would have to get into a contract with a distributor in whatever place that we're talking about, and once that contract has been consummated, then and only then will the distributor be able to, will that place have a chance to get the alcohol, or the beer. But obviously the distributor has to feel like there's an incentive for them to get into a contract with Exile. They have to think that there's going to be enough of a demand. Why are they going to waste their time, right? If there's one restaurant that wants it, the distributor is going to say, go pack sand. But if it's something that they think they're going to actually sell a lot of, then the distributor might be interested. So I guess it's because of the middleman, I think, is really the answer to your question as to why it's difficult.
Sam wants to know how big of a monthly donation would Exile need to put the Swarm on par with Michigan and Ohio State?
Well, I think it's a different answer for Ohio State than it is for Michigan.
I was going to say, a little bit different.
Hey, Brad, do you know what August total is going to be? Have you heard that yet?
I'll probably find that out tomorrow. But my foreshadowing, talking to RJ, the president of Exile, he thinks there might be It may start with a 1,
Ooh.
a 6-digit number.
Ooh.
So that would be really exciting.
We're talking about revenue directly from beer.
Yeah.
Yes, for the Swarm.
And September is going to be huge with a couple of games at home.
Yeah.
How much of that do you think? What do you attribute the uptick in August? State Fair? I mean, other
State Fair for sure, and then of course the venues around Iowa City and Coralville. I mean, Hy-Vees and whatever are buying this stuff up in August to sell in the first week of September, right? I mean, it'll be recorded as a sale when Exile sells it to the distributor. Then the distributor sells it to Hy-Vee or whoever, right? So the sale will happen in advance of when the consumer buys it, maybe by a week. So all of the beer for Saturday's game has been sold already to the distributor, who's also then sold it to Airmark or Hy-Vees or gas stations or whatever. So,
but obviously the more that fans buy, the more the distributor will have to get moving forward.
Exactly. The distributor say, I need more. And then Exile is already starting to talk about alternative facilities to make this stuff. This is really making me very proud as an Iowa grad that we're drinking so much of this stuff.
It's amazing entrepreneurial thing because the University of Iowa and the Swarm Collective was the first one to do a beer.
Now there's like 50 collectives across the country doing it. It's like, and I knew this was going to happen.
Little Brother is getting beer, and it's amazing that. And one of the things I'm looking forward to doing on Saturday before the game, guys, is just walking around the tailgates and seeing people drinking Swarm beer. I mean, it's just going to be cool.
It'll be interesting to see if anybody shames somebody for drinking something other than Swarm beer in Kinnick. I'm not going to condone it necessarily, but if I hear it, I might smile.
Do you have any idea what the price difference is like for game day purchase inside the stadium?
I get the impression that it's the same price as the other craft beers.
Okay.
I
think it's better.
My guess is it's going to be. I'm going to guess it's $8 for a 16 ounce. If I'm guessing.
Yeah.
They might be able to get a Bud Light, Coors Light, Busch Light for $6.50, but or $7. I don't know, but maybe they might save $1 if they want to not support the Hawks.
So a couple things here. So I'm kind of trying to figure out where to best pack our punches here for the last couple minutes. Tyler wants to know about Brad's record prediction for the season, so this will be a good one to hit. Do you have a
double digits all day? We're gonna win 10+ games. I want to say 11-1. The actuary in me says 10-2.
Okay.
Probably lose one that I'm. Obviously the chalk would be that we're gonna lose to Wisconsin and Penn State.
That's the chalk.
That's the chalk. I think we're gonna probably win one of those. I'll tell you this right now: when we go into State College and win the whiteout game, I'm going to be smelling blood at 12. I'm going to be thinking 12-0. I mean, really. I mean, we win that one. It's Katie bar the door. I'm going to be so excited.
I thought you were going to say you're going to be smelling like the Swarm beer for the next week.
Accurate as well. I in all fairness, if we don't win 9+ games, I'll be disappointed this year, and there's no doubt I will be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Given that, yeah.
I think that we have the players to win 9+ games. I think we'll win 10 or 11. I'm talking about regular season. I'm not talking about, and I think we'll win the West.
And
Brad, do you have a reservation at St. Elmo's for early December on a Friday night?
Yep.
Okay.
We're doing it.
Yep.
Corey, what's your prediction? I haven't heard yours.
I had 10-2, and I went with the chalk. I've got them losing to Wisconsin and Penn State, but I said when I made those predictions, I wouldn't be shocked if they go to Penn State and win. I think it's really hard to, obviously, historically, it's really hard to go up to Madison and win. I also wouldn't be shocked if they win at Wisconsin and lose at home to Illinois. But I've said it before, and Tom agreed with me when we recorded a podcast on his show here a few weeks ago. I think 8-4 is the reasonable floor, given the roster, the schedule, assuming Cade stays healthy. 8-4 is the floor for this team. You could argue 12-0 is the ceiling, but 11-1 is probably a reasonable ceiling.
What's more likely? The question for you guys: which is more likely, 7-5 or 12-0?
12-0.
Ooh, 12-0. Yeah.
I love you both.
I
agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I honestly think that if we win at Penn State, it's going to be one of those where we're going to look around and going, at that point, we're going to be going, you know what? There's not a game on our schedule that we shouldn't win at this point. That's
but
what
Brad,
I think.
let me just preface, but let me just quantify what I just said. That is assuming Cade stays healthy. If Cade goes down, I'm not throwing 7-5 off the table.
Absolutely not.
But if he's healthy from game 1 to game 12, I think they're more likely to go 12-0 than 7-5. I think obviously those percentages are so small either way, but no, I think they've got a great chance to win 10 or 11 games.
Do you guys think we win the West?
I predicted to win the West. Yes.
The only reservation I have, if you guys have, I know Tom, you do your due diligence with this stuff. Wisconsin's got a very favorable schedule as well. They get Ohio State at home. And I brought up Illinois for a good reason. They have a favorable schedule.
Yeah, they do.
And I know people are sleeping on them. They lose Tommy DeVito. They lose their star DB Witherspoon to the NFL draft.
They lost Chase Brown. That dude could play.
Chase Brown.
His brother could play too.
But I have faith in Brett Bielema and what he's doing there. And I would not be shocked if they surprise some people with that schedule, build some momentum. I think they were the best team in the West last year. Of course, they didn't represent in Indy, but yeah, it's going to be fascinating. The schedules align between Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. I think those are my 3 contenders. I think it's going to come down to, my prediction is that it comes down to the final couple of weeks. It may come down to a game that it came down to 2 years ago, Minnesota, Wisconsin. It may very well come down to that game, just with how the schedules are made up. I will say, go ahead, Brad.
No, I was just saying, I think Wisconsin's going to lose one early. I think when you've got a new coach and a new scheme, and they're not just they're not just tweaking this thing. I mean, This is an overhaul. This is a full overhaul of the engine. I feel like they may struggle a little bit more than people think, but I agree that their schedule is very, very, very.
I will tell you the game to watch for if you're an Iowa fan early on in the year, and I think Iowa fans will be watching the game tomorrow night between Minnesota and Nebraska, but I'll tell you the West game to watch. It's on September 22nd. Does anybody know what that game is? It's Wisconsin.
That'll be a Friday game.
Yeah. Is it a Friday? Yeah, it is a Friday. You're right.
The 22nd is a Friday because we play on the 23rd.
Wisconsin at Purdue.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That will be, and like you said, Brad, I've said the same thing. I think if you're an Iowa fan, you're hopeful Wisconsin gets tripped up in a game or two. They shouldn't lose early, and that trip to Purdue could be tricky if the hype around Hudson Card is real.
They go to Wazoo too. They go out to Washington State too. So that's always a tough trip, and I think Washington State got them last year in Madison. So.
They did. Yeah.
You know who the backup running back is for the Purdue Boilermakers in their 2 deeps right now?
It's Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
How about that?
Speaking of,
there was a certain assistant coach that told them he should probably be a running back when he came to Iowa.
Yeah, that didn't go over very well, did it?
No, it didn't.
So speaking of former players, Brandon has a question. I'm going to throw this one to Tom because I don't know the backstory. Brandon says, don't we have an Ohio State walk-on receiver that came with Caleb Brown? Well, first of all, he's talking about, is it Austin Kutcher? Is that his name?
Yeah.
What happened there, Tom? Can you tell us?
I don't know. He just disappeared off the roster. So
did anybody ask Kirk? Has anybody asked him what's going on?
Because it's a walk-on. It's just kind of disappears. And
he I think
so. Handwriting.
I'm speculating. I think he saw that there was the opportunity that he thought might have been there wasn't there, from the standpoint of, oh hey, they've got wide receivers now. I thought that there was a wide open. There were no wide receivers, but now Iowa has wide receivers. I think he was trying to be opportunistic, and it, may not have worked out.
Acriel has an interesting question, kind of a differently phrased question. Which game are you looking forward to the most? I guess I'll go first. I'm always looking forward to a trip to Penn State, or I should say a game against Penn State. For some reason, that game, Tom, you and I remember doing a podcast before the 2021 game with you, and we went through like every big Iowa-Penn State game in the past 10 to 15 years. There's something special. It's like that unwritten rivalry. And there's something special about Iowa-Penn State games. They're always memorable. Like even the losses are memorable. I think back to 2018. It was 2018. Have I got that right? The loss at Penn State.
The one with Saquon Barkley at home, I'll never forget.
2017, absolutely.
What a game! What a game!
2016, people will remember that game for the game where they got blown out, and the Iowa comes back the next week and beats Michigan at home. It's always a fascinating game.
Well, 2004, the 6-4 game that Kert got roasted this week for saying, and I think people misinterpret what he was talking about there, because there's more to that. That was the week that Kirk lost his dad, who was in Pittsburgh, and lost his dad that Sunday after they had played Ohio State and beat him, and we talk about emotional Kirk. Watch him at the end of that game hugging James and Brian and just the love that those guys were sharing with each other at that moment, and knowing that John Ferentz and Kirk's mentor Joe Moore, who had passed away I think the previous summer, what they meant to him. And I remember Kirk saying, I felt like my dad and Joe Moore were looking down that day. So that was an emotional day. And then I'll never forget the 09 game with Claiborne. I mean, I've never heard 100,000 people go quiet quite the way they did when I heard the thump of that ball hitting Adrian Claiborne's hands. And
we heard it on TV, Tom.
I'm up in the press box, and I think I'm closer to the moon than I am to the field at Penn State, because it's such a giant stadium. And
what's interesting? You know what's interesting about that, Tom? I don't know if I told you this or Corey. I was talking to Kirk about that game for some reason, and he told me that Claiborne called his own number. That was not a punt block. That was not a punt block attempt. That was just Claiborne blowing up the guy in front of him and deciding he's going to go try to block the punt. And I'll be damned if he didn't do it. That was not a orchestrated, hey, we're going to try to block this punt. He did it himself.
And it generated one of the great all-time radio moments in Gary Dolphin's history as the play-by-play voice. He always has a player on after the game, and he made the unwise decision to have my friend Pat Anger on. And Gary asked Pat, what's the locker room like? Pat, of course, says, well, Dolph, a lot of happy naked guys right now. He's the best.
Where is Pat now, Tom?
He's in Bettendorf, blowing up my phone every day. He's a Swarm Beer spokesperson, right?
We just recorded a commercial with Pat.
Oh my God.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He's the best. He's one of the best human beings I know.
While it's on my mind, Tom, let me give a bit of a somber question. How is Brett Greenwood doing? For people, what you can share, what you know, can you share with Iowa fans how he's doing?
Yeah, he's doing really well. In fact, we're gonna have lunch with Brett and some guys for his birthday coming up in a couple weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. Brett's doing great. He's still grinding, still making progress. I still believe in my heart of hearts that someday there's not going to be a walker in front of him, and he's going to lead the team out of the tunnel. I firmly believe that's going to happen someday, because that kid, he's not a kid anymore, but that guy he works so hard, and he's such an inspiration. And that's just one of the things that I want to see someday, is to see Brett Greenwood leading that team out of the tunnel, because that'll But you thought that day he walked out of there with the walker with Pat and Coach Doyle. Look, man, it was chills. And if he walks out of there leading the team, it's going to be electric. And it's going to happen.
I thought it was just as cool that he was doing it as it was that Pat was there right there with him.
Oh, yeah. And Pat will tell you, Pat needed Brett as much as Brett needed Pat. And not just in that moment, but just, Pat was coming out of seeing the end of his NFL career, and he wanted some direction, and Brett gave him that. And just a great story of teammates being teammates, and they were extremely tight. And before he moved to Iowa City, Joe Conklin was working Brett out all the time too. My friend Matt Rokes is his PT that's working with him. So it's just a great group of people, and a great story.
One of those moments that game against Pitt is one of those moments where I wish you could teleport back and experience that again, because I don't know that I fully appreciated that in the moment. I will say one thing I do remember from that year as well is the college game day special that they ran in association or regarding Brett Greenwood, and how emotional Kert got talking about that. And if you ever want to go back and find that, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube somewhere. But I appreciate you giving us an update on Brett, because you don't forget about people like Brett Greenwood.
Maybe we'll maybe when we have that little lunch, we'll send out a little group photo, which is usually always fun.
It'd be awesome.
All of us hanging out.
James,
and I'll tell you this too: Iowa football doesn't forget about him either. Because I was at the football banquet last year, and he was there, and he was honored at the football banquet last year. So
James wants to know what game you're looking forward to this year, Brad.
Well, I would say the Nebraska game. I don't like the Huskers at all. The fact that they got us last year pisses me off. If I had to pick one, to get back, I want to go to Lincoln, beat their ass like a drum, and celebrate winning the West afterwards. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Obviously, the chalk answers are the Penn State whiteout game and going to Madison and whatnot. But I will also say I will tell you a game that's going to be really fun that you guys wouldn't be thinking about is the Purdue game. I think it's going to be a night game. So night games at Kinnick are always just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my opinion. It's it goes up a notch when all of a sudden we're playing under the lights, and so I'm looking forward to that game.
The best answer to that question is none of the answers that we just gave. The best answer from a game
Saturday
standpoint, well, this Saturday, no, but from a game experience standpoint, the best answer is a game at Wrigley Field.
I
think that
game's going to suck.
Well,
you know why? Well, I'll tell you why. Here's something that I found out that you guys may or may not know. I think both teams are going to be on the same freaking sideline.
Yes. Yep.
How ridiculous is that going to be?
Well, games at baseball fields never really work out that well anyways.
So think about that. Think about how that's going to be. Let's say you're Iowa. If you're looking at the field, they're on the right side, and the play is down on the other side. The defense or the offense, whoever it is having to look way to the other side of the field to get any sort of play calls or anything. I mean, it's going to be a mess. I mean, just think about that. Think about how that's going to work. It's going to be.
Hey, I just saw something, by the way, on the message boards. Blake Anderson, the Utah State coach, had an interview on Sirius XM today, and he said they have 59 new players on their roster right now. 59.
So when he said that they don't really know what they have, he probably wasn't kidding.
He's not kidding.
And somewhere, Tom, Deion Sanders is going, that's nothing.
I got nothing, man. I got 90. I got 90 new players.
Well, and this is the fact of the matter with a lot of and I think Western Michigan. I don't know if Western Michigan's numbers rival those, Tom, but I'm guessing they're not far off. The transfer portal, we see it at the top in Power 5 football, but it's shaken up every level, probably G5 more than any, because you not only have the best players that are moving on to Power 5 locations, but then you have JUCO guys coming up, FCS guys coming up. It's just, we're going to see this more and more with these season openers. A lot of unknowns because of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So, anyways, couple things here. Tim wants to know: can Iowa's defense be better overall than last year? I think it's going to be hard to be better overall. I can tell you one thing Don Patterson brought up, and he's nitpicking. He says, according to his analytics, the red zone defense could be better by the numbers. It could be better, but that is nitpicking. I think they've ended up, according to his red zone metric, I think like 5th in the Big Ten. So there's always ways you can improve. Collectively, I think it's going to be hard to be better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's do I think that getting Nick Jackson's going to help relative to what we would be otherwise? Yes, because, who would be playing if not for Nick Jackson? Maybe some inexperience. And so Nick Jackson's proven. I think he's not, nobody's Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell was the Butkus winner. So I think it's going to be tough. But could our defensive line be better than last year? It was awfully good, but it could be every bit as good or better. Like this, I'm telling you, Y.A. Black is a monster. We've got some. I mean, Craig is bigger and better. I mean, a lot of these guys. Joe Evans is
Joe Evans. Joe Evans, you put in Penn, he's going to have at least 7 sacks every year.
We're going to be on the defensive line. We're going to be really tough. And the good part about that is, I think our weakness is our secondary. Not that it's bad, but I'm saying that's our weakness. If you've got a really strong defensive line, they can make an average secondary look pretty good because the quarterback's having to get rid of it quickly. So.
I've been selling this that Xavier Wampa is going to make the kind of jump that Cooper DeJean made last year.
I hope so.
I think Iowa fans are all for that.
Yeah,
and I think Aaron Graves, you talked about that defensive line. By all accounts, and the endorsements for Aaron Graves during the offseason have been immense. So I would guess that he has made the jump that a lot of people expected. In fact, who was it that brought that? I think it was Don Patterson brought up, asked me if I was surprised that Aaron was not a starter, because based on everything Don's heard, he's just, I don't know that it really matters, because let's remind ourselves that Lucas Van Ness was never technically a starter. I'm not saying Aaron Graves is the next Lucas Van Ness, but they've got 3, as I said at the outset, even without Noah Shannon, they've got 3 starter level D tackles right now.
They do, and they're going to be able to rotate these guys and keep them fresh. The offensive line for our opponent, it's going to be tough for them. They're going to be out there the whole time, and these defensive guys are rotating in fresh, and they're gonna wear out some offensive lines for sure. So
I appreciate the super chat here from Zach. He says, "Go Brad and the Swarm."
I appreciate you, Zach.
Also, Eric, thank you for the super chat. Eric, your top-notch guests make this show great. Looking forward to another incredible year. Thank you for that, Eric, and looking forward to, as we said earlier, having Tom on for.
He was clearly talking about Tom there.
No, God, no.
Talking about Tom.
Brad's mayor. He's the only man who's more popular than Kirk Ferentz.
No, I'm not. Well, I will tell you that some of the players, they see me and their eyes light up. There's no doubt about that. They think I'm carrying around money or something. Yeah.
James wants to know. He's got one more question for Brad. Will we get a number 9 commemorative beer can?
Oh, Tyler Sash, yeah.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? That's a great idea.
or 24.
I love that. I love that idea. I don't know that. I don't know. It's alcohol, man. It's you got to be careful about that stuff. I mean, I wanted to have a vodka Sam commemorative vodka bottle, but that probably wasn't a good idea either. Corey doesn't even know who we're talking about.
No, I don't.
Oh
You don't even know? Oh, well. I mean, there's some people. There was a gal that and her name apparently was Sam, that got
too much vodka.
Too much vodka, and she ran out onto the field. Is that not right, Tom? To an Iowa game, and
when was
got
this?
arrested? Got arrested. This is way back in the early 2000s? Would you say?
Yeah, maybe.
I want to say it was like 01, 02 kind of stuff.
Okay, and she blew some obnoxious, like a 0.3 or something, like some number that's almost impossible. She was like this really small petite gal, and she blew some incredible, blood alcohol content number. And so people started calling her Vodka Sam. And so like she became famous honestly, like it was a big deal back then. And
Bathroom Lois. How about Bathroom Lois? There's another one. We don't even need
that's
to get
really
into that
funny too. Oh God, no, we don't need to go there. But anyway, no, that's something to commemorate Sash would be really cool.
And Brandon wants to commemorate Chris Street as well. You could do non-alcoholic beers, just like 2 lines of virgin beers, basically, as commemorative lines.
That'd be cool. Yeah, Chris Street was I knew Chris Street in college. I mean, I was a freshman. He was there. Knew the guy. 3.341. I can tell. I said 0.30, and I was being conservative.
Chris has got his facts straight. So
normally, if you blow that much, you're dead.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's
you're no longer able to blow.
You can't do anything. I mean, anyway. Oh, there's Otto. Love it.
There's your guy Otto. Zach wants to know a question for Brad. If Cade and the offense do well this year, do you think it will change the way Iowa utilizes the transfer portal? Will they use it more and more? Thanks for everything you do.
I think that Kirk and Tyler and the staff understand at this point that the transfer portal can be a weapon to plug holes in their roster, to plug holes that exist in their roster for one reason or the other. I also will tell you that they don't view that as their primary means of recruiting. It's one of those where this is if we find ourselves in a situation where we have a hole, they'll use the portal, but it's not what they're trying to do. They view themselves as Iowa as a developmental program, and prefer to kind of recruit them out of high school and grow them up as Hawks and do it that way. But as we all know, attrition and things can happen, and I think that this year has been an awakening for the staff to realize that, hey, this can be really good for us and keep us at the standard that Iowa fans expect. Iowa fans expect to win 8 games a year or more. I don't know many Iowa fans. Would you not agree that that's the standard? I mean, I think that any Iowa fan, if I say we went 7-5, I think most Iowa fans would not feel that was a good year.
Yeah.
They expect 8 or more, and I think that the transfer portal is now an avenue to where I think that the staff feels like they can achieve that standard each and every year. I'm speaking for them, but that's the sense I get.
Here's the thing. I look at the portal, and if they have, players who have success, say Nick Jackson or Cade McNamara or a Caleb Brown, it's going to attract other guys when they go out to look for places to fill. Now, having said that, I don't think you want to get on the hamster wheel of a quarterback a year kind of thing, because that's what Northwestern's ended up doing. They had Peyton Ramsey and they had a great success with him, but After that, boy, it fell off, and they've been chasing a quarterback for 3 years now, I think, and it's just not been good for them. And I think that's where Kirk's more like, hey, we need to develop players in the program, and a couple of years from now, maybe it's Marco Lainez or somebody like that. That's the quarterback that takes over.
One of the things I'll say that I was kind of blown away by, as I'm kind of close to the action and this whole transfer portal thing, is that when someone hits the portal, the staff is digging literally frantically and learning as much about this kid as fast as they possibly can. It's like a race against time.
Yes.
That they're not the type of program that just says, oh, we've seen his tape, he's good, let's offer him. That's not the way these guys roll. And there have been players that I'm like, someone hits the portal and I'll send a text saying, hey, this guy, he's good. What do you think? We interested? Been digging since the minute we know he was, he's in the portal. Not the character guy that we want. Heard that more than once. And I'm kind of like, are you sure the guy's really good? And it's and I can tell you that the transfer portal guys they've gotten have all been high character guys. Every one of them.
They're great guys.
If you think about it, 3 of the guys that they got on the transfer portal were captains.
Yeah.
On the team.
Cade
McNamara. They're all captains. Pretty high character.
I'll share you a story. Tyler Barnes on our podcast recently, and we were talking about that, and he was basically like, you got to be like one of the first 5 phone calls to these kids to get their attention. Otherwise, they're just kind of moving on to something else. So you got to make a decision quickly, and you got to dig quickly. And it's like speed dating. It's just, it really is. It's like, because those guys they're not going to be like the recruit who wants to be wined and dined, and it's a process and everything. These portal kids want to make a decision and get to where they're getting as quickly as they can.
And I was going to say,
a lot of them are interested in money.
Yes.
The one thing that was brought up by, again, Don on our show the other day is he's got a former player who coached Caleb Brown in high school, and he said the same thing about Caleb Brown. Really high character kid. So a person may think, he's an Ohio State kid. He comes in here a lot of hype. He's probably got a chip on his shoulder, got an attitude. No, by all accounts, high character kid. And by the way, another high character kid is Seth Anderson. Really nice young man. And
he's a pro. He grew up in a pro family. His dad was a pro wide receiver. Not just any pro. Terrific wide receiver. I think he might still have. Does he still have the record? Does he still have the receiver? He's a pro, and these guys are all really, really good, really good people, and so that's even the guys that you take a Rusty Feth. I'm not sure this guy's going to start for us or not. He can play. I don't know if he'll start Saturday. I don't think he was one on the 2 deep. I don't think he was listed as a starter on the 2 deep.
No, he wasn't.
So probably won't, but he could play. I mean, he's going to be in that rotation. He'll be in the rotation. But think about it. High quality, high character kid was starting at Miami of Ohio, wanted to be coached up by his old coach Barnett, wanted to play for a big time program, so to speak. And he's fit in great. So, a lot of these guys are really impressive.
Tom, do you have obviously hard for you, and you have so much contact with all these athletes, and you have for so many years, but I'm just curious, do you have a short list that you can share of guys that you especially are rooting for? Like, there's always those guys, right, that you just know a little bit more about this young man's upbringing and their personalities and what they've been through. Is there anybody that you can share?
Just over the years, guys that I really enjoyed.
I'm talking on this roster, people that you know on this.
On this roster, boy, that's a great question.
Let me go first, because I've said this before. Couple people, one being Ontario Thompson. His story fascinates me.
Sure.
I talked to him on a media day about his grandmother and his story. Almost quit football. He's an Iowa kid. Great personality. We saw him do the triple cartwheel flip, whatever that was.
Yes.
Media day.
Media day.
Dejan Parker, great kid. Very thankful for the opportunity. Comes from kind of a humble background in the Detroit area, played at Saginaw Valley, had to earn his way here. Nearly went to Virginia. Iowa flipped him late. Seth Anderson, obviously, Brad, you talked about his dad. Seth is such a humble kid and just seems like a fun-loving kid. He's just happy all the time. He's always got a smile on his face. Tom, you probably kind of get where I'm coming from. People that when you talk to them, whether you interview them in person or on the phone or whatever, they just make you want to root for him. And I would give Kert credit. This comes back to the culture that he's built. There's a lot of guys like that.
I'll tell you a couple of guys. Jay Higgins is just such a good guy, and just a lot of guys in his position would have stepped away. Would have went somewhere else get playing time. He could have went somewhere else and played, and he waited his turn. And there's something to be said for that. He's a good leader. Logan Lee, I've known him for a long time, and just a great kid. I'll tell you, and one of the things I always ask on these swarm interviews is, you're stranded on a desert island, and you can have one teammate there. Who's it going to be? And I'll bet you that 90% of the guys have said Logan Lee. That just tells you what you need to know, that he's the guy you want to have your back in a bad situation, and he's going to help guide you out of it. Joe Evans, just because he's a great story. I mean, just an incredible story. Walk on. It was out of necessity that he ends up playing D-line. There's just out of guys. And, he shared that story in the Swarm interview that's going to be coming out about just how Coach Wall, they were just like, hey, go put your hand on the ground and go rush the passer. And he found it, and they found something in him. And next thing you know, he's putting on weight. And next thing you know, he's playing football and playing defensive end. And he's just so grateful to, he even got, pretty emotional talking about telling his parents that he got a scholarship to the University of Iowa. And he's just super appreciative. Another guy that I really like, Mason Richmond, just a good, solid, decent guy. Logan Jones, the same thing, just good, solid people that you want to be around and really enjoy them. So those are some guys that I would think of right away.
I'll share another quick anecdote on Jay Higgins. You think about somebody like that, in a lot of places, if you think about it, if you're Jay Higgins, you've been waiting your turn.
Yep.
Right. And next thing you know, it's your turn, and you're feeling like, okay, you're going to be the star, you're going to be the star linebacker. And Iowa goes out to the transfer portal and gets a kid who's a 3-time All-ACC linebacker. And it would be easy if you're him to say, oh, I was about to become the star linebacker. Jack Campbell's finally gone. What does Jay Higgins do? He befriends this guy, Nick Jackson, so much so that he invites him, says, hey, you come here. You can live with me. We got a bedroom. You come, you be my roommate.
Yep.
Think about that. That's pretty cool.
Deontay Craig and Kyler Fisher in that house.
And so, with Deontay Craig's dog.
Deontay Craig's giant dog.
Yeah. And so, but that tells you what kind of a person Jay Higgins is, right? He could have been the jealous type and say, no, I want the spotlight for myself. And he's like, no, this is what's best for the team. And you can be my running mate and sidekick, and we're going to have to be communicating on the field together. Why don't you come live with me and let's become buds? And they're great friends. It's that's pretty cool stuff.
Let me add one more, and then we can move on. I apologize to both of you because we made this podcast a lot longer than I intended, but I just want to add one more because everybody loves a good comeback story. And I love seeing guys who are given second chances that take advantage of those second chances. Jamari Harris has had a a trialsome career to an extent. You know, he gets the OWI arrest, and everybody makes mistakes. Not going to defame him for that, but then he misses basically all of last year due to an injury. He's just been through a lot. And speaking with him at Media Day, maybe he's always been this way, Tom. I don't remember speaking with him at Media Day the year prior, but he seemed just very calm and collective and humble when I talked to him. Is that kind of how he's always been?
Yeah, he's always like that. He's a pretty quiet guy, but
he's quiet. He's quiet, but he's also, he called me. He's one of the few that when it started the Swarm, whatever, and it got him an NIL deal. He says, Brad, I just want to get to know you. You're doing all of this stuff for me. I want to thank you, but I just want to know more about you. That it's like he's so grateful. He's just like, this guy who's doing this stuff for me. I want to know about you. I want to know more about you. And he's asking me all these questions. And like, usually I'm the one asking the kids questions about them. He's asking all these questions about me. He's a special kid. He really is.
Yeah. Okay. So Sam wants to know about the Penn State game. It being early, is that a positive or negative? I've said on the record several times, I think it's a huge positive. And I say it because of one major factor, and that's the quarterback position. You've got a guy at Iowa who's not only the most seasoned guy in this conference, but he's also went to Penn State and won. And Eric All knows what it takes to go to Penn State and win. Drew Aller, 5-star phenom, does not know, even though he's going to be in Beaverland, right? He does not know what that experience is like. I think advantage Iowa, given leadership at the top, that game's being played in September. Your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, I think getting them early is probably better. I think Penn State's pretty good, though. I really do. I think they've got a lot of talent. I mean, they may have as much talent as Ohio State and Michigan have this year. I mean, it's going to be a tough game for them. But they've gone up there and won some big games against Penn State with a lot of talent. So we'll see what happens. Iowa will show up. Let's just say that.
And Eric, you followed his line of questioning, Tom. He says, what makes them so great this year? Why is Penn State? Why so much hype around the Lions?
Boy, they've got their defense is really good. Their running back room is outstanding. They've got just a lot of talent. They've got one of the best offensive tackles in the country. The only thing holding them back might be their head coach.
And he's had the tendency to maybe hold them back.
Yes.
I know you're a big advocate for that.
Yeah, I'm not a big James Franklin fan.
So Brett wants to know a big if here, but if Iowa wins the West, who would you like to play, Michigan or Ohio State? I'll go Michigan every day of the week, given a couple key skill position spots that I think can kill you, especially playing a game indoors. I know that Iowa got killed by Michigan 2 years ago. I'd much rather play Michigan in any indoor setting, given the skill at wide receiver Ohio State brings to the table every year. But they do have an experience at quarterback with Kyle McCord having been named the starter, but I'm guessing he'll fit right into the mold. Brad, do you have a thought on who you'd rather see in Indy? It might be Penn State again. They might get a rematch with Penn State.
Yeah, I would say, just because I love Cade so much, I know who he wants. He wants to play Michigan.
Yeah.
So I want Michigan just for Cade. So that's really what I want, just for Cade. I'll take whoever I can get. I mean, I prefer Rutgers, if you ask me. I mean, I'd rather play those guys in the Big Ten championship than anybody else. But having said that, I would say Michigan would be my first. I'd rather play Michigan than Ohio State. Ohio State, just for whatever reason, they always scare me. And I know that Cade and Eric and those guys, we won't back down to anybody. I'll tell you, Caleb Brown wants to play Ohio State.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that right now.
Sure.
He would love to go play. He would love to have a big game against Ohio State. I promise you. In fact, I've asked him that question. I want to play Ohio State. Yeah. So
I don't want to play Ohio State. Anyways, Connor, thank you for the super chat. I know this is a bit outlandish. If Iowa drops 40 plus on Utah State, Penn State better watch out. That happens. I'm guessing Iowa goes 12-0. Connor putting the cart ahead of the horse, but what else are we going to do?
Well, we do
during
on a podcast, yeah.
Preseason hype, on a podcast. So, and final question of the night comes from South Bend Hawkeye, and I'm going to leave Tom with this one. Who will James Franklin blame this time when Iowa beats him?
The referees.
Okay. That's actually a fair, reasonable guess from Tom Kakert. So thank you for that, Tom.
Maybe there was just too much white out there. He couldn't see where didn't know what he was doing.
Anything at all that I'm missing that you want to bring up, Tom? We're like I said, I'm super excited to have you on. You'll jump on with us for a few minutes after Kert's availability on Saturday, and you're going to be doing that throughout the season. So myself and Coach Patterson and Tom Kakert for Iowa postgame Saturday. Of course, kickoff at 11 a.m. I think it's 11:03 Central Time on FS1, to be followed by Iowa postgame with Coach Patterson about an hour after the show. I'll be there at the game as well, so it'll be a bit of a delay. You're not coming up for the game, are you, Brad?
Oh yeah.
Are you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I've got to host a tailgate.
What am I thinking? You're going to be at the Marriott. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll be at the Marriott. I'll be at most games. You're going to have one heck of a post-game show with you two guys. I mean, my goodness.
And Donnie P, the star of the show.
Don, yeah, for sure.
He's the cowboy, so we're looking forward to that. And
I'm just a brief drop-in guest. I'm like, when Don Rickles would show up on Johnny Carson, he just kind of pop in there and just wave and tell a few jokes. And
you don't know you haven't reviewed Corey's age lately, have you, Tom?
I know who Johnny Carson. I know
he has no idea who these guys are.
You don't think I know who Johnny Carson is? I grew up in Iowa.
Yeah, I was going to bet against it. Hey, you don't know who
I think it's more about my age. Brad, I think it's my age that we're talking about here.
Can I just say you just committed a huge no-no, Brad, because you used the term betting on an Iowa athletics.
I've tried it. I've almost done it a few times. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everybody being here. We've had about 200 people on, at least for the last hour and a half. So appreciate everybody being here, even late on a Wednesday night. Go over to HawkeyeReport.com. Tom, you've got stuff going with your team over at On3. Anything to look for over the next couple of days before game day?
I have my game preview up on Friday morning. That's always my 5,000 words or whatever it ends up being this year for every game, and dropping a podcast. So everybody check that out. We're talking Iowa football. So yeah.
You and Matt Randazzo, and of course I'll have my picks for the week dropping here in the next day or two on the podcast, and again, just plenty of content over the next few days, and we'll look forward to seeing. I'll at least get to see Tom on video. If I don't see you in person, Tom, I'll see you on video Saturday. Brad, I hope to see you in person Saturday. If not, we'll make it work at some point. Thank you again, both of you, for taking the time this evening, and we'll talk to everybody. The next time I talk to people live will be after an Iowa game, so that feels pretty good to say.
Hopefully it'll be a victory. Big victory.
Yeah. Folks, thanks, Corey. Thanks, Brad.
Absolutely.
Hey, great to see you guys.
Tom Kakert, Corey Brad from the Hawkeye, the Storm. Have a great night, folks.